Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed once again. Assalamu alaikum. I'm delighted to be back with you all today, and I have to say I am very excited because this conversation about tourism opening minds, we've had it many times before. We are all, for lack of better words, in the same church, mosque, gurdwara, whatever we want to call it, of tourism. We all know the power and the beauty of our sector. It's why we're in it. We know that through tourism, it creates awareness. Awareness creates curiosity. Curiosity creates interest. Interest becomes exposure. It creates understanding, it creates respect, it creates appreciation. It creates all of these good things that, again, make us love why we do what we do. And we're finding that in today's day and age, as Kelly very kindly shared in the introduction, there is a need for this. There is a need for tourism to create that understanding, respect, and appreciation. But that's not enough. It is fundamentally not enough. So I'm going to change the title of this session. It is not about tourism opening minds, TOURISE opens minds. And it needs to open up a conversation that we know we need to have. Because in today's day and age, there are too many minds that are shut. There are too many borders that are being shut. And as a result, there's too much potential of life that is being shut. So we're going to have a very interesting conversation with 4 superb speakers, one in which is so far away again. But he is someone who we all know and absolutely adore in this industry. His name is Fahd Hamidaddin, the CEO of Saudi Tourism Authority, and importantly, and very importantly, the vice chairman of what has become our community and our calling, TOURISE. Thank you very much, sir. Sitting beside him, we have the beautiful Irene Murerwa, the Chief Tourism Officer of Rwanda Development Board. Welcome, madam. We also have Daniel Alegre, who's beside him, CEO of TelevisaUnivision. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Gracias. And we have His Excellency Ahmed Youssef, the CEO of Egyptian Tourism Authority. Thank you very much for joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are CEOs, you are leaders, you are absolute champions of the tourism industry. We talk about tourism opening minds. You have a remarkable mandate in your jobs as a whole. And I'm going to be referring to the CEO of Saudi Tourism as Abu Sada. So, Abu Sada, starting with you. You have a remarkable mandate when it comes to tourism and the development of tourism in the kingdom. But I don't think anything is as important in your mandate to you than this issue. Why?
Well, thank you, Anita, and thank you, dear panelists, to be joining us here and all our guests and participants. As on behalf of TOURISE, not just the Saudi Tourism Authority, a big warm welcome to all of you. You know, Saudi Arabia has been a victim of a lot of prejudice. And what I've witnessed with many of my colleagues here with us today is that people that came and visited Saudi left with very different impression, different understanding. And at the heart of this is the topic of today. There are reasons why people don't travel from a place to another. Is it because no connectivity, or it's because no access, no visa, or it's because of prejudices in our minds and mainly in our minds? I think the point here today is that, or the fact is, 80% of the world travel to only 10% of the world. My dear co-panelists is from Rwanda. If I'm to ask how many people have been to Rwanda, I'm not sure many. It won't be more than 20%. And it is higher because we are in Saudi, but otherwise it would be the same. So the point is, we are at a time of political tensions, wars, polarization, divide, even within the same countries. Tourism is the only solution to overcome that. And travelers, some of you may have heard me say that, travelers, whether they know it or not, are agents of good. When tourists go to a place, they have their heart in their hand, extending it to places, to people they meet, because they're curious to learn, connect, understand. And what they do is they pick everything beautiful and they take it back in form of memories. Those memories are in pictures, videos, or even better, stories. Stories that carry understanding, appreciation, or even deeper. It is experiences or memories that make us see ourselves and the world in a new light. And I think there's nothing more beautiful about tourism than just doing that.
Brilliant. And I must say, Abu Sara, thank you for that, because, and I think it's the spirit of TOURISE. You have created a global event that happens to be in Saudi. But in doing that, you've created, not in just in this panel, but in many of them, a global mirror that you've dropped in front of the industry to say, take a look at yourself and look at what we are doing and taking forward. Because the same spirit of what you've shared, Irene, you have something to say as well about a country that has gone through unbelievable transformation, unbelievable history, and it carries an unbelievable message of stop judging me, please.
Thank you, Anita. And I think before I even answer your question, I'd like again to say thank you for the warm welcome and the amazing hospitality here. For me, it's a lesson learned. You've raised the bar so high that I don't know what else can we do. So back to your question, I think he mentioned it. He did say that Saudi has been a victim of prejudice. Us, it's even worse. We've experienced the genocide, where we lost 1 million or plus even lives. We were completely wiped out. We did not even have hope for the future. If I have to go in depth, perhaps I will invite you to come to Rwanda and see the Kigali Genocide Memorial, the museum that would tell a story of a terrible, terrible, past. But again, Rwanda doesn't want to be defined like that anymore. We've decided to be, to take into our own hands the future, to redefine it completely. What does that take? We're a landlocked country, so we had to open up. We had to have a new vision when it comes to the visa regime. We basically had to see what can we offer. And as you know, Rwanda is very known for the mountain gorillas. So we thought, let's leverage on that as a first step so that we can open up to the world, let them come and see for themselves what we have to offer, which is beyond the mountain gorillas. So today, Rwanda is, has a vision of perhaps receiving more than 5 million by 2050. We're a small country with big dreams and huge ambition. If I have to tell you, the gorilla tourism today contributes to more than 300 million, and we are 10 to 11% of the GDP. You can imagine what tourism means now for the community, for the population, and so forth. To his point, I think it's worth, giving a chance to different countries, but also be patient. It has to be spontaneous. People have to want to see for themselves. And again, the best ambassadors are the people coming to Rwanda, the visitors. They've gone back, as you say, experienced our food, traditional dance. They've interacted with the local communities. They've come to understand that gorilla tourism means more than just visiting a gorilla. It means so much to the communities living nearby. So for us, tourism, it's just beyond coming through and coming out. It's more come back. Absolutely. Again and again. And perhaps even invest or live there. Thank you.
Well, what you've done masterfully, Irene, as well, which is incredible, because I've had the blessing of doing the gorilla trek twice. 20 years apart, admittedly, is you've actually, and I don't mean animal to animal, you've gone from gorilla tourism to mice tourism, and I don't mean little mice, I mean the industry, which is spectacular because you've gone after a completely different niche, bringing people in for business purposes and then exposing them to so much more richness. That is absolutely fantastic, particularly the work Rwanda Development Board has done in bringing the local communities, including the original poachers, into the guerrilla tourism model. It's a beautiful transformation, not only economically, but psychologically. And again, the identity of the country. We're going to jump from Rwanda to Egypt now, because similarly, my engagement with your beautiful country was very much through the Arab Spring and that recovery process. And Egypt equally is a country of come and understand us. Don't just look at us from the outside. What does the whole principle of tourism opening minds mean to you as an Egyptian?
Let me speak out of two personal experiences. When I was a little bit young, I wanted to practice my language. So I asked some of my friends to introduce me to tour guides that are actually interacting with lots of nationalities. So I joined them for lunch, dinner, and some of the excursions. When I speak with these people, I discovered that they don't speak or think like their politicians. They are human beings like us, and they are extremely nice. So starting this point, I started to develop my own perception about the other cultures, not as a tourist, but as a human being. Later on, when I joined the multinational organizations, I used to work with lots of people that wanted to ask me about visiting Egypt and what kind of perception or negative perception that they have. Whenever they visited, they were really amazed. So there is the perception and the reality. There was a gap. Before I came as a CEO of the Egyptian Tourism Authority as the marketing guy, I really wished from the bottom of my heart to do something about it. So my prayers have been answered. When I came here, I made sure to work on many platforms, not as normal, marketing campaigns. I worked to have this kind of a change perception for tourists coming to Egypt. Not only this, but with the local community as well, to be able to prepare them to understand what tourism means. And it is not an economic thing. It is a kind of a diplomacy of empathy between people. And looking to the past few years about how people started to change their perception, looking at their feedback when they visit Egypt, it's really amazing. And I will continue building on this. I can hear Fahd actually. At a point of time, I lived in Saudi Arabia for 12 years, so my whole life was here. Now, when I grew old, it is only less than 25% of my life. But I understand fully about the multicultural, and I'm really honored. Working in tourism for me is not about economic or finance. It is a mission. For me, it is a mission. So I do it with pleasure. I hope I responded to your
Very much so. And I must say that there's a very special smile that our lovely CEO carries for two reasons. Because you, sir, deserve enormous congratulations for the opening of the GEM Museum, the Great Egyptian Museum, which just recently opened 10 days ago. And on top of that, we now have the best possible tourism champion in the chair of Director General of UNESCO. Yes. A former Minister of Tourism of Egypt is now the DG of UNESCO. So equally, again, we have a lovely force of change. I'd like to go to yourself and actually ask from your perspective, when you hear this, you're coming with a media lens. It's interesting to see in terms of how countries wanting to change. Does tourism really open minds, or is it just, that's people going to play?
Sure, I think that's a great question, Anita. And many of you in the audience are probably asking yourselves, why is the CEO of one of the largest media companies in the world sitting with secretaries of tourism from wonderful countries? First, the connection was I met Fahd in a conference in France, and I said to him, I'm very, very interested in learning more about Saudi Arabia because TelevisaUnivision is the largest Spanish language media company, and we're known around the world for our dramas, our telenovelas. And our dramas are seen here in the kingdom. And someone told me once that when people really get agitated or hysterical here, they say, stop being so Mexican. And I said, really? And that's because of the content that we exported, out everywhere around the world. There's this concept of if you want to be animated, you're Mexican. That could be good or that could be bad, right? And the way I looked at it was I realized in that conversation that we had is that content is also tourism. The kind of content that we make and the kind of content that we export can either reinforce positive images or also reinforce negative stereotypes. And the work that you all do here and bringing us all together, and again, thank you so very much for your incredible hospitality and a fantastic event, is really about bringing people together so that they understand different cultures, different ways of engaging in different conversations. And when you do that, then it removes those barriers of prejudice that you talked about, Fahd, in the beginning. And I see that as part of my mission as CEO of TelevisaUnivision to bring content in a way that actually breaks down those barriers. And one of my missions now, after being at this conference, is to ensure that many of our productions actually happen in region, that happen here in Saudi Arabia, so that people around the world can really see what Saudi Arabia really is. And we talk about prejudice. I lived in Singapore, and I remember the very first time I landed in Singapore, I had a bottle of aspirin with me. And the first thing I thought was, is it illegal to bring aspirin into Singapore? Am I going to get stopped at the border? And I realized, wait, that's silly, And it was this stereotype of you can't go to certain countries because you can't go to Mexico because of the drug cartels. You can't go to Rwanda because of what happened in Rwanda in the past. And then really breaking down those negative stereotypes and then have people be able to experience things like we're experiencing here, I think will fundamentally change people's perceptions. It starts from my point of view with content, but then it really comes down to interpersonal connections.
And you've walked perfectly, Daniel, into how I want to navigate this conversation, because it's not just the message, it's the messenger.
Yes.
And often the best advocates for a destination are those who feel guilty for having judged it. Irene, you're shaking your head. Tell me your thoughts on that. How do you convert those initially prejudiced, I don't want to go to Rwanda, suddenly who love it and believe you have to do this one thing before you die? How do you convert them into your champions?
So thank you again. I think for us, it's first within ourselves, in the country. We had poachers basically thinking that to survive, it will be to kill the wildlife. So what we did is to show them that there is purpose. There is, you could actually coexist with the wildlife and at the same time have a purpose for life and dream big. Now, going back to what happened in Rwanda more than 30 years ago, in 1994, I think everyone thought we are wiped out of the map. There's nothing else that can happen. We shouldn't even think and consider to go to not only Africa, but now Rwanda, even within Africa, was a problem. Again, we're a landlocked country, so what we had to do is export some of our culture outside. So we started by striking partnerships with some of the biggest teams, in the football industry, the likes of Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, the latest Atletico de Madrid. So that was also one of the, I will say, a way to break these barriers or even the thinking of some people. So once we went there, we exported our culture, visit Rwanda, the brand, people started picking interest. So our airline, Rwandair, was able to, have a direct flight to London right away. Then came Paris, perhaps soon even Madrid. So now we went as far as thinking, okay, now we've done Europe. What else can we do? Now we're the first country in Africa to sign with, an NBA team, the LA Clippers. We did it like a month ago, and as well as NFL. Why not bring NFL to, to Africa? So all that was a way first to export, perhaps put in the mind of people that it's okay. Rwanda can do this. Now, when you pick the interest, you open up, you have the connectivity, the accessibility through the visa regime. Now, when people come, they become the best ambassadors.
Indeed.
So today we have the top 5 markets, UK, France, the United States, and of course some of the countries, South Africa, Nigeria. So those are the things that we did, export our culture, and now bring it back with the same people that we are targeting. And lately we celebrated 90 years of one of our national park, the safari. And you won't believe it's 90 years, but with a partnership with African Parks, one of the best, in terms of managing wildlife from South Africa. So all that is part of the strategy to say, we can do this, and we are deemed to be the safest country in Africa now, though we experienced the genocide 30 and plus years ago. We are the 6th safest country in the world. So those are the things that we were able to do. So open up, be patient, and consistency, and not lose focus.
Indeed. But it's interesting how you did it, not by, for lack of better words, shouting loudly, but by millions of little whispers through the football community, through all of those people simply, like I said up front, why is Rwanda on a football shirt? And just starting those questions and curiosities. Abu Sadr, from your perspective, taking those people that were once prejudiced and turning them into your advocates, how do you do that?
I would say 3 points. One, in any industry, you will always have the early adopters, the believers, and then you will have the skeptics, and then the laggers, and so on. So focus on those that the early adopters. So that's one. Second, you have to offer something that gives them the comfort, safety, as well as the low cost of trial. Usually events are easy to invite to. So I think that's second one. And the good thing about events is that it attracts macro citizens. And I say macro citizens because they could be CEOs and strong leaders like yourselves. You have greater influence that is probably greater than normal people. But even if you talk about events of sports or events of fashion or what have you that we are very busy with, these are all macro citizens because socially they have great influence and circle of influence when they go back. And they're the best and the truest advocates of your story. Third, we got to do what we got to do. As in, make it easy, make it accessible, make it, and do the facts. So I've had many of stories where I asked people to visit and they were like, not for me. Saudi, not for women. I mean, as a father of 2 girls, I don't like to hear that. But I remember asking one who's a chief editor of a travel guide, and she said, "You have to find reassurance. You can't say it as a government. Find third party to do it." I remember emailing her, saying, "How is Insure My Trip?" I'm not here promoting any company, but she said, "Yeah, Insure My Trip is a global validator of safety." So we did reach out to Insure My Trip, and I asked them to come to Saudi and assess safety for women. In 23, one of the Saudi cities in Medina Munawwara was rated the safest city in the world for women, for single women after midnight. Guess what? In 24, same city topped the ranking again. She came year 3. She had dinner on her last trip. She actually said, please, I don't want any of your team to take me around. I want to be on my own. By 2 nights before she left, she met me in a restaurant in Riyadh. And then in the midst of the dinner, she stood up and she said, can I give you a hug? I'm like, okay, fine. It helped that she was probably 2 decades older than I am. So I didn't create a scene in the restaurant. And I hugged her, but she teared and she was shaking. And she said, I have to say, I will never forgive myself. And I said, look at the bright side. We're in tourism. Let's carry this story to others. And I'm so delighted that I can tell the story on stage here today.
That's fantastic.
And those advocates are profoundly powerful. I want to touch into something that you said as well about the events. Because whether it was the Qatar World Cup, the South Africa World Cup in 2010, what's happening here, and all of these different mega events, I found that, especially with the gorillas equally, a bookmark. When someone turns around and says, have you, I don't want to go, I'll always ask, have you been to South Africa after the World Cup? Have you seen it since 2010? Have you seen Saudi since the beginning of the Vision 2030 initiatives? Have you been here in the last years? Have you been since the Arab Spring? There needs to be a bookmark. Have you seen the gorillas? So that all of that prejudice has a potential of a stop point and a reinvention point. Talk to me a little bit about Egypt and how you've created a world of advocates, of those who initially were, I'll wait until after.
Well, tourism is shifting. That helped us much. Years back, people used to travel to see the monuments or to have a specific program. Now with the Gen Z and even the new generations coming, all of them, they want to experience and they want to see authenticity. Authenticity is about the people, meals, music, customs, lots of things. So that shift is actually going where we want it to be. So my job here is or my mission here will be, having the tourists as part of the narrative, the Egyptian tourism narrative, and having our local people as part of the experience. So we worked in both sides, as said before. If you visit, for example, Siwa Oasis, which is an eco place in the desert, you will find humble people with handicrafts receiving tourists. And these people, whenever I meet, they want to learn language to be able to communicate with the other side, not only for the trade or transaction. It is for the interaction. They wanted to tell their jokes, tell their stories, because some of them succeeded to learn these languages, and the others want to follow. If you go to Aswan, for example, it's a city down the south, beautiful nature. There is a place called Gharb Suhail, a place with lots of Nubian people. They live, and whenever you go there, their houses are open, where you can have tea and have local food, and they don't charge you. You put whatever you want there. And these kind of experiences are expanding quickly. So we have been seeing rural tourism, coming, and rural tourism is all about, just people interacting with very simple things. I'm doing my part when it comes to marketing communication, and sometimes we intervene with our partners from international donors and organizations to have this kind of training and mind shifting for our own society. So I communicate outside and I train inside, and in a way it is working. Whenever I see the comments of people visiting Egypt, they touch about the experience, not about monuments and about the weather or about whatever. And actually talking about the Grand Egyptian Museum, for us, And the President Sisi said that in his opening speech. The Grand Egyptian Museum was built because lots of countries cooperated in establishing this project. It's a $1 billion project. Lots of countries have provided finances or technical assistance or whatever. And again, we look at it, it's not about, Egyptian antiquities. It is a world heritage.
Yes.
It happens to be in Egypt, but again, it's a world heritage that we want to present to the world to be part of the narrative inside the world. Last thing, whenever you, all of you, I really hope that you will visit the Grand Egyptian Museum very soon. When you finish the grand staircase, looking to the pyramid, so as a person, I feel very proud.
You should.
My grandfather's great-grandfathers built these great monuments, and now we are building the Grand Egyptian Museum as an extension. And this is not about, greatness is not about, how much building you do. It's about your contribution in the culture, in the world, and how people see you, how you interact with people. And that will be it from my side.
Very true. It's a lovely point you make, and it goes perfectly into talking about in our last few minutes, and I wish we had more time. There's an entire world of tourism stakeholders we never talk about. And they are the people who also find that tourism can actually connect minds or disconnect. It can create bridges or disconnect. And that's the people of the destination. We don't engage enough with domestics, people. No, and I don't mean domestic tourists, but as you, as an Egyptian, are celebrating the museum, not as an Egyptian tourism practitioner. I'd like to jump to you, Abu Sada, when we speak to that, because you've always been a firm advocate of Saudi tourism development is for the Saudis, not just the visitors to Saudi. Irene, equally, what you've done in Rwanda has been remarkable. You've spoken about the Egyptian community. What must we, not are we, what should we, what must we do going forward when it comes to making sure that tourism opens minds for the people of the destination, not just the visitors? Abu Sada.
I'll probably defer this to our media expert here. I think we need to have a greater share of attention and share of voice to the unknown in our media instead of just the known and familiar, because that's commercially easy to sell. In Saudi, and I can talk about our experience during the pandemic, the best thing that came out of the pandemic, which was an unfortunate event, is the fact that the Saudis discovered their own land and their own communities. Had they not discovered, I bet you our numbers wouldn't even be half of where we are today. They've gone to places because they were first to go. They had no other place to go. And now they go because they choose it, they love it, and they have great memories that they want to carry to others and bring their international visitors as well. So actually my ask of you and all our media partners to, on the World Tourism Day, we find a way to create a global movement where we advocate new destinations, and they don't need to be in other countries. Even within your own country, prejudice sits even within Saudi. You see in the US, there is, I can think of the American writer saying, travel is fatal to prejudice, narrow-mindedness, and bigotry. It's more relevant today than any other day. So let's commit to going to places we've never been. Let's commit to be the best agents we can be and get the help of all our media, because that's where the real machine of storytellers of the unknown can happen.
Yeah, if you don't mind my adding to this, I couldn't agree with you more. And I spent most of my life in the internet space. I worked at Google when it was a small company. It was there for almost 20 years. And what I saw from the power of the internet, which was accelerated during COVID, was exactly your point of people having voices and connections that they didn't have before. And if there's one thing I urge you, obviously media and how we portray different areas to go, I am committed to bringing one of our dramas to be filmed here in the kingdom and see, have the world see what you've been able to build. That's what I'm taking out of this. That's my commitment, what I want to do. But thank you. But there's something that I think is incredibly important, and that's the voice of influencers. And you saw earlier today with Cristiano Ronaldo in the interview that had in one of the panels here, and you see what an advocate he has now become for this country. And he talked about the Red Sea and how he has a home there and how he goes with his children. Being able to create a welcoming environment for influencers to be able to go to these unique places, because the internet enables voices to amplify so much of what you've been able to build. And in the past, it used to be that tourism was advertising and how it was portrayed in the media. And now you actually have millions of tourists out there who have hundreds of millions, if not billions of followers who are actually talking about your locations. And we're hosting the World Cup in Mexico next year, in your home country as well, in Canada. I'm ensuring that we are welcoming to influencers, because they're going to talk about their experiences in Mexico beyond the World Cup and bring that back to their country, and more importantly, bring that back to the internet and be able to amplify what an incredible experience they will hopefully and for sure have in Mexico, US, and Canada. And then that's, I think, a very noble mission for all of us.
Indeed. But you raise a really important point as we start to wrap, because I think what's really important about this is it is using those influencers, but not only international influencers coming to a country, people in their own country talking about their own country. And this is where, again, I wish we had more time. The domestic market must be the greatest champions of the domestic tourism economy. That's the only way to keep it year-round. It's the only way to sustain it. So when you see these incredible mega projects taking place around the world, it's a fantastic way of bringing people. That's why I love what you've done with the MICE sector in Rwanda. Absolutely brilliant. How many times have I been to Rwanda? 5. Wow. So much because of the business, not just because of the gorillas. And that's the glory it brings you back. Now, I have to say that as we're going to be wrapping up, and sadly we don't have time, I just beg of everyone, please, the greatest minds that can be changed through tourism is the people of the destination. So it's not just opening wallets through tourism, it's opening minds and hearts, because that's where you see a national, like you today, you've been glorious. The back straightens up with pride that the world wants to come to my home. That's glorious. So as we wrap up in the last 70 seconds, classic of Abu Sada is saying, we need to do this, and suddenly it's done. And in 2023, it was done, because someone created a global campaign of Tourism Opens Minds. So as we all watch it for the next 70 seconds, I ask you please to join me in immense loving thanks to our panels, because it's TOURISE that opens minds. Thank you very much.
How can we lose sight of the shore if we all go to the same places?
How can we discover the new if the majority of travelers visit a minority of places on Earth?
Tourism has the power to move people, places, and even ideas, because the more we move, the more our minds open.
On this day, UNWTO launches from Riyadh the World Tourism Day Global Initiative. Tourism Opens Minds.
To open new frontiers, open up new routes.
Open homes to new people. Open us all to new cultures.
To open the minds and hearts of as many of the world's travelers as we can.
To open the door to a more diverse form of tourism and gather the whole world under one flag.
Inspired by the colors of the flags of every country in the world.
This is the beginning of the Tourism Opens Minds initiative.
Where
it goes depends on you.